The Final Project by Hannah J. Welch. The Final Project by me, Hannah J. Welch. Oops. There we go. The scientific revolution brought to light a lot of what we use today. For example, Nicholas Tulp's discovery of human anatomy by dissecting cadavers paved the way for postmortems. Isaac Newton's law of gravitation paved the way for modern physics. When it comes to medicine, you have Robert Boyle. He treated his parents with mercury and sulfur, which did not really have great results. Because it's really poisonous to us, but he did pave the way for our modern medicine practices. William Harvey, who dissected human cadavers and experimented on live animals to discover blood circulation. Some of these are very weird. Yeah, we gotta start somewhere. Edward Jenner and his research on smallpox changed the medicine game. He helped create treatments and preventatives for smallpox. Primarily essentially infecting another person with smallpox, which, some people still do today. Jonas Salk and his polio vaccine helped save millions. He developed the polio vaccine and he even tested it on himself first. He also got multiple willing people to test it with him as well. These scientific discoveries, a lot of them challenged God, challenged the church, challenged all of that. And so it caused a lot of division in the community. The most prominent of these was Galileo discovering the position of the Earth in our universe. Now, Galileo, he was well known within the community, and a lot of his work was accepted under the Roman Catholic Church. However, there was one document in particular that did not sit well with them, and they decided to ridicule him and essentially call him stupid and prosecute him for hearsay against the scriptures. A lot of this unrest, there's a lot of unrest with this, which caused even more revolution within the church. There, the Protestant Reformation was born. Soon after that, the Lutheran Church was formed, and then the Baptists were also formed. The Protestants were outcasts because they believed that some of the Catholic teachings were not of the Bible, such as purgatory. Same with Baptists and Lutheran. Those came out of that. There's a lot of different theology with those two, but we'll just go based off of Protestant because it's the easiest to remember. Martin Luther was the leader of this movement. He later went on to teach his own doctrine, the Lutheran Church. I honestly don't know much about it. I probably should have done more research on it. A lot of Protestants were in prison and killed by the Roman Catholic Church. However, later on, when they were accepted, I use accepted in a broad term, they were not murdered as much. The Protestants decided that they were going to act like the Catholics and burn Baptists at the stake. So, not great, not off to a great start. Alright. revolutions and how they shape politics. So, all revolutions start because of some powerful government overstepping their boundaries. I use government loosely. Some revolutions start from um, different powers that are not like the church, or, you know, govern the people but not officially a government, if that makes sense. Um, the American Revolution was started because of the taxes imposed on them by King George III without any representation in Parliament. The colonies started a campaign, no taxation without representation. That is one of the most famous American quotes of that time. Um, the British gave them a tax on paper goods, that would be the Stamp Act, a tax on tea, the Tea Act of 1773. And in response of all of this, a group of American nationalists decided that they were going to throw a lot of trunks of tea into the ships, or sorry, from the ships into the Boston harbor. Now, what really, really bothered the British here is the tea belonged to the East India Company. Um, it was the day was marked. Oh, sorry. As the Boston Tea Party. It will forever be called that. A few years before, on March 5th, 1770, the British murdered 5 Americans in the Boston massacre for protesting the taxes. Which lots of uproar and etc. etc. In 1774, the British and the Americans finally fired at each other, and they declared war. Long story short, there was a lot of blood and stuff, and the Americans won their independence as well as the war. And to this day, it is known as one of the only wars that the British has ever lost. So, good on us. The king and Parliament imposed taxes on the Americans, and so they revolted because they were not represented inside Parliament, so they believed they should not be taxed by said government. It's essentially the whole start of the revolution. Then the French Revolution was started because of oppressive powers by a king. Kings from the monarchy, which was the choice of government, the French King Louis the 15th, 14th, 15th, 14th, 15th. I don't know. I'm not good with Roman numerals. He was a very, very big man. He was obese. That's how he's described in historian language, actually. Very interesting. And while his people were starving and poor, he continued to eat well and ate a lot of portions that could have been given to his people. The people found out and they revolted. Eventually, all of that led to them removing his title, his monarch title, and just cutting off the poor man's head in a public execution by a guillotine. That's what the image right there shows. He was not entirely responsible for the revolution, but he was also not completely blameless because during his reign, food prices skyrocket, and people of the Third Estate were heavily taxed multiple times. and that would lead to the French Revolution. A lot of problems in France at the time was actually because of them helping the Americans during their war against the British. They overspent on their aid towards us, and it caused lots of inflation and economic issues within that. And then that's it. That's my citations. So all thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I appreciate this. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.